Hi, I'm Allison Russo of HelpNutNation.com. Welcome to the Lodge. I'm here in the beautiful mountains of Leavenworth, Washington, and I'm going to show you how I make pizza at home. Now, I understand how easy it is to go to the store and purchase prepackaged pizzas that you can whip out at a moment's notice and feed your family. Or just call the local pizza company and have it delivered hot and fresh right to your door, right? So why wouldn't we want to do that? Well, the reason why I like to make pizza at home is because I get to control the ingredients. When I make it at home, I know that there's no high fructose corn syrup, there's no genetically modified ingredients, there's no growth hormones added, and it tastes delicious. It's really simple to do. I'm going to show you how I make a sourdough pizza crust and then a paleo almond pizza crust, both of which are absolutely fabulous and are going to rock your world. Let's talk about the ingredients for our sourdough pizza crust. First, I have some lovely bubbly sourdough starter that I fed last night. I keep mine in a mason jar and then I put it in a bowl in case it overflows. Next, I have a mix of flours here. Now, I based my recipe off of Nourish Kitchen's einkorn sourdough pizza crust recipe. However, I like to start people off by using a mix of some more familiar flours, such as unbleached white flour and then some sprouted whole wheat flour. Now, for those of you who are transitioning from a more store-bought pizza crust into this homemade pizza crust, you are going to want to use a higher ratio of the unbleached white flour to any other flour, and that's simply because it will taste more familiar and be more accepted by your friends and family. Also, you don't have to feel so bad when using unbleached white flour with sourdough because it pre-digests it and actually turns it into a much healthier flour than if you were just using it on its own. Next, I have a mix of spices along with some sea salt. I have basil, oregano, garlic granules, and some red pepper flakes. I have some cold pressed olive oil here from a source that I trust, along with some filtered water. All right, so first we're going to start by adding our flour to a large mixing bowl. Now today I'm going to be using my KitchenAid mixer. You can also just use your hands, a whisk, and just any large mixing bowl. So I'm going to whisk in my salt and various spices into the flour mixture. And that just takes a second. After I'm done doing that, I'm going to kind of make a little indentation in the middle for my olive oil and sourdough starter. I'm just going to pour in my olive oil. I'm going to take directly out of my sourdough starter. Oh my gosh, that is so bubbly. It's beautiful. Now let's take this over to the mixer and mix it up. Okay, I've got all my ingredients in my mixing bowl. I've got the dough hook attachment on my mixer, and now I'm going to start mixing it and add the water as it mixes. All right, my dough is done. It's a really stiff dough, so don't be afraid that it's gonna feel a little bit stiffer than like a bread dough might. Now, I just leave mine right in this bowl, and sometimes I leave it right on the mixer. I just cover it, and I'm gonna let it sit for about 8 to 12 hours. Now, I like to make this pizza crust the night before, let it sit overnight, and then have it ready to go for the next day. However, you can do it in the morning before you take off for work, and it should be ready by the time you get home and want to make your pizza crust. Okay, my dough's been sitting for about 14 hours. It can sit longer than that, 12 hours or less than the 12 hours. It's a pretty forgiving dough. And it's more than doubled in size. It's a pretty stiff dough. And I'm gonna actually turn this out now onto my flat surface, which I have cleaned very thoroughly. And I'm going to use this semolina flour. Now this is an optional ingredient, and I didn't include it in my base ingredients because you can use any flour. However, I really like semolina flour because it is actually wheat durum. It is used in all traditional Italian pastas and pizza crusts, and it lends a nice flavor, and it has a little bit of a cornmeal-y type of texture even though there's no corn in it, and it helps that pizza not stick to the pan. All right, I'm just gonna put some of my semolina flour down on my surface. Keep it from sticking. Muscle it out of this bowl. And then I'm gonna knead it just gently, just for a minute. It doesn't need a ton of kneading. You can see how that semolina flour makes it slide all over the place. But it is, I always love kneading dough. It just kind of gets your energy out in a really productive way. If you're mad, you can be mad at the dough, or if you're feeling nice that day, you can be nice to the dough. Either way. Okay, so my dough has been kneaded and turned into a lovely little ball. I'm just going to cover it with the bowl while we talk about some options of what to do with this crust. Now remember that this is enough dough for 2 large pizza crusts. So what I like to do is use one now and save one for later. And there's a couple of different options and ways that you can freeze this. First off, you can just simply take half of your dough and put it in a freezer bag and label it, and next time you want to use it, you just take it out in the morning, let it thaw on your countertop during the day, and it'll be ready to go when you come home from work. The next option is that you can just partially cook your pizza crust. So I did this one for about 10 minutes so that it'll be ready to go. I can again take it out in the morning, let it thaw either in the fridge or on my countertop, and then just stick it in the oven like maybe one of those pre-cooked pizza crusts that you can just buy at the store. Only this one's a lot healthier and a lot cheaper. Okay, I'm going to label my bags with the date and exactly what is going in them. Now people have different tools and pieces of equipment that they can cook pizza in. I have a pizza pan here. You can also use a cookie sheet, and then I will be showing you how I use parchment paper and a pizza stone as well. So let's add just a little bit of semolina flour to the pizza pan. We don't grease this pan, we just put just a little tiny bit of that flour in it just so that the dough doesn't stick. And then I'm going to simply roll this out. Now I'm not too much of a perfectionist about this. I just want it to be a general round shape and then about 1/4 inch thick. You can do it thicker if you like a thicker crust. You absolutely can do it thicker. Okay, I've got my pizza dough all rolled out, and I just check the size to make sure it's a little bit bigger than my pizza pan. That should be just right. Now I take my pastry dough cutter here and I just simply scrape it off of my countertop. You might be using a cutting board or a heavily floured cutting board, albeit, or you might be using a pastry cloth. Either one of those is fine. Just nicely comes off of there. And then it sticks together a little bit to unfold it, but it's no big deal. Just stretch it back out. So you work the crust just however you want your edges to look. If you want them to be more uniform, then you're going to want to move some of the dough over to the other side. I don't get too picky about it because some of my kids like thicker crust and some like thinner, so we can make it all work. And in the oven it all turns out beautifully. Okay, let's get ready and roll out our other crust for the pizza stone. Okay, this one is for the pizza stone. So again, I'm going to fold it over just like with the other one, only this time I'm going to put it on parchment paper. Now I've got my parchment paper on an old flat cookie sheet that I have that I used to get my pizzas in and out of the oven with. They have special little wooden contraptions that help you take your pizza in and out of the oven. However, I have this and it works great, so I just use it. It's always the way to go is use whatever tools you already have available. Okay, so as soon as my oven's preheated, I'm going to put my pizzas in, cook them for 10 minutes. Then we're going to add the sauce and the toppings after that 10 minutes is up. Okay, my oven's preheated to 425 degrees and my pizza stone is super hot, so I want to make sure not to touch it. That's why I use this to just slide it on in, making sure it's all the way on the stone. I can hold on to the parchment paper to move it around a bit if I need to. Okay, I'm going to cook it for 10 minutes. Let's take a moment and talk about ingredients. Now, one of the things I love about making pizza at home is that every single ingredient I can freeze, and that's including the toppings. So let me just take a minute to show you some of the ingredients that I freeze and how I do it. So let's start with the pizza sauce. One of the things I like to do is make a big batch of pizza sauce, and I'm going to give you the recipe. And then I just freeze it in ice cube trays. I pop it out of the ice cube trays and put it in a Ziploc bag that's labeled pizza sauce and the date. Now, the reason I do it in those little ice cube trays is because then when I take it out the morning of, or even right after I get home from work, and I can just quickly put however many I think for the size of pizza in a pan and heat it up, and it quickly turns back right into a nice sauce within just a matter of minutes. Seriously, using these techniques, you can beat the pizza man. Now, the other topping I like to do is pesto, and with pesto, I usually want a little bit smaller amount, so I actually just freeze it on a cookie sheet in mounds. This one's been in the freezer a little while, and then I thaw it out just for my personal pizzas because the kids don't like the pesto, so I just do small little amounts for me. The other thing I like to do is say, this is the pineapple that I had frozen. I had a big frozen bag of pineapple and we didn't use it all for the last pizza. So anytime that I have just a little bit of an ingredient, I'll just quick put it in a bag, and it's great to toss on a pizza. Not everybody likes the pineapple, so I just put it on a couple slices for the people who like pineapple. If your kids like pepperoni, which most kids I know do, that freezes really nicely. You don't even have to thaw it out. You can just take it directly out of the freezer and it pulls right apart. The salami is really good with that too. And Canadian bacon, you'll have to thaw just for a few minutes. Now, this is a little known fact, but you can freeze mozzarella cheese and you can freeze it after it's been shredded. So I often will buy a large batch of it and grate it up using my food processor and then freeze it in bags, and then I just take it out the morning I want to use it. Again, even if I forget to take it out, I can put the cheese on frozen on top of my pizza. As long as it doesn't have too much condensation on it, then it won't water down the pizza at all. You could also use it fresh like this, and if you happen to not use it all, just stick it in a freezer bag and put it in the freezer. So these are just some of the ingredients that I like. Of course, you can use anything that you like as well. Okay, our pizzas are done and ready to take out of the oven. Now, there is one thing that I forgot to tell you beforehand, which is these pizza crusts, like all pizza crusts, like to puff up. So if you have a either a fork or this type of pizza roller with little cleats in it, you can just put it right through the middle of that and it'll help it to fall back down but keep the nice fluffy edge around it. Okay, it's time to top our pizza. We always start with our sauce first. And different people like different thicknesses of sauce. My family likes it pretty thin. It's one of the reasons that I freeze that pizza sauce ahead of time so that I can really not have a whole bunch go to waste. Okay, next, if you're going to use your flat meats like your pepperoni or your Canadian bacon, those go on right after the sauce. You don't want those on over the cheese. And then, last but not least, we're going to put on our cheese. And then if you want olives or veggies or anything like that, you put it on after the cheese. Okay, our pizza is set and we're going to put it back in the oven for about another 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how long it takes for the cheese to melt and get bubbly. All right, our pizza's done. It's time to bring it out of the oven and serve it up. Pan is really hot, so I have to be careful. But this just turned out so delicious looking. Shall we just have a look at it before we serve it up? I just want you to see, I'm not even gonna, well, I'll cut this a little smaller. The one that was on the pizza stone. You see, it's got a really nice hold to it. It doesn't droop. It's not too thick. It is actually just perfect. All right, guys, it's time to come up and get your pizza. This one's olive and cheese. Do you guys want meat? All right, our sourdough pizza crust is done and being consumed as we speak. The taste testers, all impromptu, told me that it tasted just as good as takeout. So there you have it. You got to give it a try now. Now next I'm going to show you how to make my very favorite paleo almond pizza crust. It is for all of you paleo and gluten-free people out there, and it is to die for. Let's take a look at how that's done. Healthy and time-saving and cost-effective affair. Let's try that again.
It's delicious.
Okay, well, and it still is delicious after all that. Ingredients: high fructose corn syrup, very what is the word I want to say? Very. There was a word there I wanted to say. Your own hands while still making it quick, efficient, saving time, saving money, and I've said saving time, quick, efficient, saving time 3 times, which shoot, because otherwise it was okay. You love easy, and we're gonna start again.
That was awesome.